I am Jane Pagsidan.
I am Jan Carol Velos.
I am Arafat Magadato.
I am Kay Hapson, and
I am Brianna Armuja.
I am Basmar Panotolan.
Sashin Brian Diliking.
I am Muhammad Muammar A. Pantaw.
And we are the Group 3
Institutionalism.
What a pleasant and wonderful morning we are having today. Currently in front of you is Mr. Jashin Nigi, or you can call me Sir Jashin in a nice and a very simple way. So today, in top of the morning, I am with my co-professor, our very own, who looks good, glamorous, and magnificent today. Please help me welcome Miss Brianna Armolia.
Hello, class, rise and shine. By the way, how is your morning going so far? Is it fine? Is it wonderful? Anyway, let's stick to our main goal of today's morning. So for those who don't know, we are one of the members from the Group 3, and we will be talking or discussing about institutionalism.
So class, we have prepared and made a video presentation that talks about institutionalism. By this video, you will be able to expand your scope of knowledge of institutionalism. You will be able to know its definitions, primary functions, and importance and significance, its types or maybe its examples. We'll introduce and many more. In class, I guess you are all set and ready.
I'm sure they are pretty much excited like me and ready to listen in regards to our video. And with that said, our video is all set, and again, this is the Group 3 Institutionalism.
So to begin and start with, we will talk and expound what is institutionalism all about. So the word institutionalism, have you ever heard this kind of word before? Did you know it already? Or maybe you don't know what is that word all about. So if we try to be mindful of the word, we know it has a root word. So from the root word itself, simply the institution. So technically, we will tackle about an institution or institutions because our main topic is the institutionalism. So institutions would come along. When we talk about institution, normally it means an organization, establishment, foundation, society, or the like devoted to the promotion of a particular cause or program, especially one of a public, educational, or charitable character. So an institution are stable, recurring patterns of behavior. Gooden's 1996. Institution involves formal rules and informal conventions of political life as well as formal constitutions and organizational structure, values, and power relationships. So in order to understand the institutionalism, we must know and understand first the meaning of institution. Just like what I have said, institutions, according to Samuel P. Huntington, are stable, valued, recurring patterns of behavior. Institutions can refer to mechanisms which govern the behavior of a set of individuals within a given community and are identified with a social purpose transcending individuals and intentions by mediating the rules that govern living behavior. So according to Geoffrey M. Hudson, it is misleading to say that an institution is a form of behavior. Instead, Hudson states that institutions are integrated systems or rules that structure social interactions. So based on my learnings, we cannot say an institution without the people. So it is very important that people would come along in order to make it an institution. So therefore, it should consist of a group of people who have common or come together for a common purpose These institutions are a part of the social order of society and that govern the behavior and expectations of individuals. And when talking about institution, the best example of this are school, such as universities like University of the Philippines, a bank. We can say that this is a financial institution. So actually there are many financial institutions, but the bank is the one and only of them. Of course, a family, marriage, dress code, election system, parliament, a media and an economy is an institution also. So again, we should not forget the key concept. So the institution is humanity devised constraints that affect the human behavior. So after knowing about the meaning of institution and its descriptions and principles, at this point in time, what is institutionalism? So in this theory, it is being explained that it is composed by the 5 major or main institutions which make up society. And these are the family, education, the religion, economics, and government. These 5 main institutions is the one who gives event to a society. That is why the success of the society is always connected to the 5 institutions aforementioned. So institutionalism in the social sciences is an approach that emphasizes the role of institutions. It believes that institutions matter because they contain as well as influence individual behavior and are able to affect political decisions in a variety of ways. So the institutions in the society provides the society needs. Like for example, a hospital that gives us our healthcare needs, supporting our life maintenance, providing out medical assistance to help out the sick people. Even though not everyone is really in need of the institutions that are existing in the society, it is helping out the society to be stable and comes in aid when it is needed. So let us all imagine a state or a nation without the government or the school, for example. We all aware that school is known where education is being taught to our children and for the future generations to come. This is where the kids also learn how to interact and build their personality. So as you can see, every institution in the society plays an important part to build every individual or the community itself. Institutionalism began gaining influence in the 19th century and dominated in the social sciences in the 1950s.
So, talking about institutionalism, it composed of 2 categories or types, and these are called the formal and informal category. So first, let us discuss the formal institution. What is formal institution? So formal institutions are codified rules, policies, and norms that are considered officials, originating from the state law, government, and organizations, while on the other hand, the informal, this is equally known, rules and norms, but are commonly written down. These are social practices that have been commonly viewed as acceptable and are more persistent that codifies law, like that of formal institution. What are the differences between formal and informal institution? So don't forget or to be confused about that. When we say formal institution, from the word itself formal, so technically, this includes the written constitution, law policies, rights and regulation enforced by official authorities. Ito yung mga opisyal na batas na ipinapatupad ng gobyerno. Ito'y nakasulat na batas karaniwang nakalahad sa konstitusyon. The example of these are the money, state-powered, law, organization law, traffic rules, and holidays. But when we say informal institution, it's not the same informal. It has a big differences because informal institution is informal. It is equally known but not laid down in writing, and they tend to be more persistent than formal rules. Ito yung mga haka-haka o sabi-sabi na hango sa mamamayan na nagsalin-salin sa bawat panahon, o ito yung mga salitang pagbabahagi ng paniniwala o kautusan. These examples for these are the dowry, arranged marriage, tipping food services, and superstitious belief. Like for an example, let's just put in a scenario that if you saw a black cat, then dapat wag mong ituloy yung mga planong pupuntahan mo. Another example is that bawal kang pumunta sa isang burol, and with that said, it controls yourself or action from wearing red clothes, so you will find an option.
After knowing the two categories of the institutionalism, which are the formal and informal institution, now we have here we called institutional factors. So you're quite familiar with the institutional factors. So what is institutional actors? They are the people who make decisions and who act in the name of the states, hence the more term actors. Structures are organized sets of rules and norms, both internal and external, to the states in which such decision makers and implementers operate. So it refers to the people who make up society whose actions control the way, and regulated by institution. Instructional actors represents a series of underlying questions and perform individuality. So what is institutional actors? They are the people who make decisions and who act in the name of the states, hence the more term actors. Structures are organized sets of rules and norms, both internal and external, to the states in which such decision makers and implementers operate. So it refers to the people who make up society whose actions control the way, and regulated by institution. Instructional actors represents a series of underlying questions and perform individuality. So for me, I can say that institutional actors indicates or refers to a person or people because from the word itself, actors. So it can be individuals, a group, or an organization or a government that creates a follow rules.
The institutionalism is divided into two, and these are the old or the traditional institutionalism and the new institutionalism. But first, let us know what are these two all about. And so first, we will tackle first the old institutionalism. So old institutionalism is based on other human science methods such as law, history, sociology, and etc., for which it follows the evolutionary approach concerning about different types of formal institutions. The primary focus of the old institutionalism is on the citizens' mutual actions, such as members of a distinct body. This ignores the individual approaches to behavior, which originated in the middle of the 20th century. In the old institutional process, changes in individual actions are often not taken into account. Old has been primarily influenced by the works of Thorstein Veblen, John Dewey, and Wesley Mitchell, who were thinkers of the 19th and 20th century. And the second one is the new institutionalism. So the new institutionalism relies on a neoclassical economic approach where various theories such as the theory of games and approaches to equilibrium and optimization prevail. New institutionalist approaches, on the other hand, seek to carry out specific consideration of the different acts, choices, and decisions as members of independent, democratic, economic, and socio-cultural institutional mechanisms. Within the new institutionalism, a person's behavioral individuality is accepted and openly debated. Institutionalism was influenced by Gary Becker, Ronald Coase, John Buchanan, and Douglas North, who established the idea that institutions require to do much more than thrive economically. They require to form legitimacy in the institutions world. So for me, in order to compare these two in a simple way, old or traditional institutional is descriptive inductive, formal legal, and historical comparative. It focuses on the rules, norms, and values that govern political exchanges, describes constitutions, legal systems, and government structure, discusses formal arrangement, decision-making, and it uses historical comparative method, while, on the other hand, the new institutionalism refers to political behavior is embedded in an institutional structure of rules, norms, expectations, and traditions that several limited free play of individual will and calculation. It studies institutions in relation to individual behavior and micro, societal structures, macro, and other institutions. Instead of description or normative evaluation, the focus of new institutionalism is more oriented towards explanation, analysis, and explicit theory building.
So if we dig and think deeper about the institutionalism as its feature or types of approaches, like for example, when we talk about old or traditional institutionalism, its features are legalism, structuralism, holism, and normative. So first feature is legalism. So legalism, it deals with dominant rule of law and governance. Law constitutes both the framework of the public sector itself and major way by which the government can affect the behavior of people. Next is the structuralism. The contention here is that structure that only mattered but also determined behavior. It concentrated on the major institutional feature of political system. And then the holism. So holism, it was also concerned with constitutions and formal structures. And last feature of all institutionalism is the normative. So normative, it's a political science emerged from normative roots, and so traditional institutionalism linked their descriptive analysis of politics with a concern for good government.
So let us move on to the new institutionalism. So for you to be able to know, the new institutionalism has three main variants or approaches, and these are namely the normative institutionalism, the historical institutionalism, and the rational choice institutionalism. But before that, let us talk first the first approach of the new institutionalism, which is the normative institutionalism. So what is it? What is normative institutionalism? So normative or sociological institutionalism was advanced by March and Olsen. It emphasizes the cultural context within which organizations functions and the values with which actors are imbued. They posit that the best way to understand political behavior at both the individual and collective levels is through the logic of appropriateness that individuals acquire through their membership of institutions. Normative institutionalism reflects the important role assigned to norms and values within an organization in explaining behaviors of actors. The next approach is the historical institutionalism. So, historical institutionalism is associated with the writings of Steinmo, Thielen, and Longstreth. It emphasizes the importance of initial decisions and choices of venues and introduces notions such as path of dependency, traditions, response to structural functionalism. The proponent of historical institutionalism built on the old tradition of political science that assigned importance to formal political institutions. The argument of this approach is that the policy and structural choices made at the inception of the institution will have a persistent influence over its behavior for the remainder of its existence. And last but not certainly the least approach, the rational choice institutionalism. So the very goal of rational choice institutionalism is to uncover the laws of political behavior and action. The rational choice institutionalism is used to explain the rise or fall of international regimes. The kind of responsibilities that states delegate to international organizations and the shape of such organization. It purports that institutions are only vested with powers by individuals. It involves more rational choice than institutionalism. It is how individuals can ask institutions to maximize their interest. Institutions appreciated in an instrumental way can be so important insofar as they can be developed. So for me, and in a very simple way and sense of this, historical institutionalism argues that individuals act accordingly to their cultural rules and norms and their respective self-interest, while on the other hand, the sociological institutionalism argues that individuals and institutions are not purely motivated or shaped purely by self-interest. Rather, they assert that institutions, such as societal norms and beliefs, are culturally constructed, and the rational choice institutionalism employs rational choice theory in the analysis of political behavior and society.
So, after knowing the different variants or approaches of a new institutionalism, which are namely the rational choice institutionalism, the normative institutionalism, and the historical institutionalism, there are other strands that are attached to it, which is known as the discursive institutionalism, empirical institutionalism, the feminist, and the international institutionalism. Speaking about that, let's talk about their meaning and description. So first, we have the discursive institutionalism. So in this strand, it examines the role that idea and discourse play in political process and how they can lead to social change.
Next in line is the empirical institutionalism. So when we talk about it, it classifies different institutional types and analyzes their impact on government performance. Then the feminist institutionalism. It is the studies how gender norms operate with institutions and institutional processes construct and maintain gender relations. And the last strand is the international institutionalism. So here it shows that the behavior of states is steered by the structural constraints of international political life.
After knowing the different approaches and strands of a new institutionalism, now let us talk about the criticism and limitation of it. So, the criticism of traditional institutionalism are: number one, the over-reliance on structure by old institutionalism leave very little room for the impact of individuals, which is not good enough. Number two, the concentration of old institutionalists on whole system as basic of comparison made generalization and theory building too difficult. Number three, the concentration of traditional institutionalists on normative analysis undermines the subject matter of political science. The institutional concern with norms and values mean that this work could not be scientific. Number four, the focus on formal governmental institutions, constitutional issues, and public law was unpalatably formalistic and old-fashioned. Number five, it was sensitive to the non-political determinant of political behavior and hence to the non-political basis of governmental institutions.
And so, in behalf of that and other than that, I would like to add and provide other criticism and limitation in institutionalism. So criticism are it in neglect of ethical and moral standards, personal interest, power and health. It is hot struck with the method and the product of decision making rather. It analyzes the outcome and the preference based on what is optimal and ultimately beneficial for the individual actor. And last is the tragedy of the common and other reflect today's society, the widening gap between the poor and the rich, rising global temperature and political corruption. These events are but a few effects of winning personal gain over the good of many.